Well, baby, now every night in my dreams I see you, I feel you. Oh, that's how I know you go on. Far across the distance and spaces between us, you have come to show you go on. Yeah. Wherever you are, I believe that the heart does go on. Don't you know that once more, just once more, you open the door and you're here in my heart, and my heart will go on and on. Tick, tick, well, that's right. His heart goes on and on. Tick, tick, his heart goes on. Well, love touches one time, the last for a lifetime, and I'll never let it go until we're gone. But don't you know that love was when I loved you? I want you time I hold to. In my life it will always go on. Here, wherever you are, I believe that the heart does go on. Oh, baby, once more, just once more, you open the door and you're here in my heart, and my heart will go on. That's right. His heart goes on and on, little Patty. Oh. Tick, tick. Oh my. I'm king of the world. Of the whole wide world. We'll go on and on. Tick, tick, his heart goes on. Oh, that's right. Tick, tick, his heart goes on. Splish, splash, drip, drip, going down on a sinking ship. A little bitty hole made a big old rip. Cold, cold water gonna chill my trip. Little Patty, thump, thump. Thump, thump, baby, now. Little Patty, a boom, boom.
All right, good morning, everybody. We're live now. It's Larsen Live. It is not Juneteenth, of course. It is June 24th, June 24th. But yeah, we're doing a belated Juneteenth celebration. Several Juneteenth events had random spurts of gunfire, killing at least 10 people. The ones in Chicago, Madison, Wisconsin, Oakland, San Diego. But never mind that. Yeah, I actually did know about Juneteenth before any of you dweebs did. So I'm proud of myself for that. We opened up with Big Daddy's vastly superior doo-wop cover of My Heart Will Go On. I never cared for Celine Dion's Caterwauling. For those of you not aware, Big Daddy is sort of a joke band. They cover popular songs from the modern times in the style of 1950s, doo-wop and crooners. Their backstory, so to speak, is that they were a 50s band that got lost on a plane trip and they only came back to civilization in the recent times. I find them amusing. It's like an entire band made of Johnny Bravo cosplayers. But yeah, anyway, there's a reason why I chose that song. Let's just get right to the news. So, as the song alluded to, the RMS Titanic it cannot stop stacking bodies. The unsinkable ship adds another 5 bodies to the 1,503 corpses that were already there. The big news that went on this week was a submersible went down whilst exploring the wreckage of the Titanic, and the people all died without rescue. A trail of debris was found by the U.S. Coast Guard, signifying that there was almost certainly an implosion, and they died instantly. So, at the very least, there was not a slow, suffocation from oxygen deprivation. It was a tragedy caused by gross stupidity and negligence. Let's break this tragedy down piece by piece. Small pieces, of course, not giant pieces of wood that Jack totally could have gotten on Rose, you selfish bitch. Sorry, inevitable joke. I'm a 90s kid. I say as if I didn't see the movie Titanic for the first time in 2017. A mere 20 years after everybody on the planet did. Never let it be said that I'm not up to the goddamn minute on what's trendy and hot. Anyway, a bunch of very wealthy tourists, who each paid $250,000 to observe the Titanic wreckage, went down in their little submersible, and apparently shit sucked. They apparently went to the wreckage itself. Then they got stuck. Why did they get stuck? Because the submersible was a jerry-rigged hunk of crap. That's why. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but first let's check out some comments. Okay. Ponythroat says, Juneteenth is the day when people realized that cheap cotton was not so cheap after all. There's truly nothing more expensive than something that presents itself as being cheap in the short term. Ponythroat says, is the song related to the sea jalopy that got flattened like Lizzo's hemorrhoid ring? Yes it is. Liam Roddy says, good morning. Ponythroat says, Stock Rush described the crew of his sub as the safest people on Earth. Another ship captain killed by irony. The old-time mariners, they have very clear superstitions about not making big claims about your ship that you can't back up. Poseidon does not like hubris. So anyway, the submersible had, among other things, hand-cranked ratchets holding together inferior rolled steel plates, which probably explains why the thing imploded and killed everybody instantaneously. Well, I guess they got the full Titanic experience then. Oh god, I'm sorry. That was very mean of me. Yeah, as if that wasn't enough, the submersible was literally being controlled by an honest-to-God video game controller. And not even like a first-party, DualShock or whatever, a third-party Logitech controller. You can ask any gamer on the planet how good those third-party, Mad Catz controllers or whatever work. It turns out that video game controllers are not, in fact, a good replacement for submarine controls. But wait, there's more. Failures in both the hardware, the software, and human resources. Not to be confused with the failure that is human resources. That's just a failure in general. The Ocean Gate Company, which is a company that presumably specializes in whack-ass vehicle design, went out of its way to, in addition to not making their submersible with a proper body, they went out of their way to not hire any, this is a direct quote, 50-year-old white men for their expedition, saying that pasty old geezers are not inspirational to the field. Also, probably because those middle-aged gearheads would have told the company in no uncertain terms that their glorified tin can was not seaworthy. In fact, one of those old men explicitly told the captain of this, glorified dinghy that it wasn't going to work. Yeah, but the hell with guys who know what they're doing. I'm curious as to where they got the ship registered, because if they got this ship registered in Liberia, that would just be the chef's kiss to this cavalcade of failure. For those of you not aware, the government of Liberia makes a substantial amount of money by giving, sea registrations and boat registrations to any, whack job tramp steamer that asks for it. Seriously, look it up. I don't know how many of you people are reading, merchant marine news, but whenever some, rust bucket crap heap falls apart in the middle of the ocean, has to be rescued by the Coast Guard, more often than not, it's registered under the Liberian government. Look it up. Hey, let's check out some comments here. Ponythroat says it's a shame they imploded. No sonar operator furiously masturbating to the sounds of them scratching on the inside of the hole, getting weaker as the oxygen and hope runs out. Yeah. Although there are some reports I'm hearing that the Coast Guard knew about it the day it went down, but they were delayed, possibly to distract from the Hunter Biden thing. But, there's no confirmations on that. Liam Roddy says, a carbon fiber hole on a submarine. Clown world. Yes. Ponythroat says, there's nothing unusual about something like this using a controller. It's the de facto standard these days. Every Navy ship has at least some vital system controlled by an Xbox controller. I was not aware of that. I did know that there was apparently at least one registered case of a rebel tank in Syria being operated with PlayStation controllers. But I wasn't aware about submarines. I mean, I'd much rather drive a tank with a PlayStation controller than a submarine, because a tank might get blown up, but I'm not going to drown just as a possibility of default use. Liam Roddy says Navy ship periscopes are operated by controller. I was not aware of that. Ponythroat says it's emblematic that they bought a knockoff controller, Logitech F710, a model known for its poor connectivity, just to save a few bucks. Yeah, that's what I was saying. I mean, the last time I ever had a third-party controller for a game system was I had like a Mad Cat, one of those like for the Nintendo 64. I had like a Mad Cat's third-party controller, one of those translucent ones that you could see all the wires inside. Yeah, that thing was a hunk of shit. I don't trust third-party controllers. Okay. But yeah, with carbon fiber submarines and Xbox controllers. Oh boy, are we going to have a major competence crisis in the next 50 years. People are just suddenly going to forget how to maintain water filtration systems, how to build buildings that stand up straight. But diversity uber alles, though. I suggest that sometimes diversity isn't the most important thing. I mean, it's great in some cases, like intellectual cases where having a diversity of opinions is good, but not in cases where people's lives are literally being held in the balance. And the fact that I need to tell people this is a bit upsetting. Yes, let's hire 105-pound women to be firefighters who are not going to be able to carry my ass out of a building in case I suffocate. Let's also make, carbon fiber, crap dinghies to go down hundreds or thousands of feet into the ocean. And of course, very, very stupid people had to politicize this tragedy. Some people were like, the refugee ship went down at the same time and nobody cared. And some other people were like, of course, why would you ever want to go into the deep ocean? Yeah, screw exploration, screw probing the unknown. All of human achievement should be about reducing everything into teeming masses of mediocrity. One wonders why the refugees chose to come thousands of miles across the ocean to Europe instead of going to a nearby peaceful country in their region. Refugees that are almost entirely fighting-age men, might I add, but who knows why. Yes, it's very sad, this Titanic story. The Titanic just cannot stop stacking bodies. It's a tragedy all around. Let's see. Okay, we got some comments here. Ponythroat says, the controller was probably the most rigorously tested item on board, probably. Yes, that's probably the case. Ponythroat says, I've seen about 80% of outlets get the controller wrong in some way. It was a PC-only controller, not a PlayStation or an Xbox controller. I mean, those could be hunks of crap, too. I remember when I was a little kid, I had MechWarrior 3 on my PC, and I had this joystick that was supposed to simulate being a real, battle tech, mech, wildcat, whatever thing. And yeah, that thing was a hunk of crap. It was just firing all the missiles constantly. So I just had to use the mouse. Avril Graves says Darwin was all for these people. Yeah. I mean, what's really sad is that there was like a 19-year-old kid who's was talked into going with his father, and he was like, I know this is a bad idea, but I want to be with my dad. And yeah. My beautiful wife Daphne says, let's not assume I could carry you from a burning building if the need arises. Well, I mean, you are a very, robust and strong lady, my love. But I'm talking about like women who can't pass the physical exams being allowed into the fire department anyway. I've seen videos of there's like this one test where you have to like it simulates kind of crashing through a wall. It's like a fake wall, and the woman just literally runs at it like 10 times and doesn't even get close to breaking through the thing. And yeah, if a woman is capable of passing the tests, whether it be a firefighter, police, military, whatever, then yes, by all means, she should be allowed and she should be paid exactly the same as a man and treated the same as a man. But, when you have a job where people's lives are at stake, you probably shouldn't prioritize, diversity. You should prioritize getting shit done. The Titanic story, again, is a tragedy all around. But you know what else is a tragedy? A story out of Boston this past week, in which there was a police call made to a public housing complex. Police officers came to the public housing complex, finding a horrifying scene filled with men in drag and at least 5 children under the age of 10. Yeah, we've done a hard gear shift, but I guess the recurring thread here is tragedy. Anyway, the children, the prepubescent children, who a resident of the drag apartment attempted to hide from the EMTs and police, were living in squalor in an apartment filled with alcohol, drugs, sex toys, and a dead body. Let's all take note of this story because they'll memory hole it, just like all the other stories of men in drag and transgenders being nonces. Now, obviously, the vast majority of these alphabet people do not want to diddle children, and they have no desire to be anywhere around children. But I can't help but feel that the ones who are really, really insistent about being around children and performing for children tend to molest the children. I mean, just saying, this wasn't the first time that a group of Bene Telelaxu face dancers, and boy, I dug deep for that one. It's not the first time that this group of people have had a few nonces involved. Nor was it the second time, or the third time, or the fourth time. In fact, speaking of, literally just yesterday, the first transgender representative in Congress got busted for the CP. And, the dead body is the strangest thing about this whole sordid affair. Now, I am capable of putting myself into the shoes of a morally bankrupt pervert nonce. So, in a sick way, I can understand the alcohol, the drugs, and the sex toys in the same as the children. But why is there a dead body? The article didn't specify if the body was a murder victim, if it overdosed on drugs, which I would assume is most likely, or what. But you just leave it hanging around there? You couldn't put it in, like, the fridge or something? Like, just so it wouldn't stink up the joint? My wife gives me a stern talking to if I don't use plastic wrap on a bowl of tuna fish. But, a dead body's cool. Okay. All right, let's see. Got some comments here. Tony Gilbert says, hey, Larsen, what did I miss? Well, we just did the first story of the day, which was I was talking about the Titanic Submersible debacle, which was just a tragedy all around, a failure of engineering and human resources. And that's basically it. Then we just talked about a nonce story coming out of Boston. Got some other comments here and a good turnout today, 10 people so far. Also, good news, people. I have a scripted video coming out tomorrow. The return of that. If I'm lucky, I can do one of those a week and the live stream. So hopefully I can get my subscriber rate back. There was once a glorious time where I was getting like 200 or even 300 subscribers a month. I am not doing that now. Year-long hiatuses aren't good. Nor is dating an emotionally abusive bitch like my old fiance, but that's neither here nor there. Avril Graves says they should have listened to the kid. That is terrible. Yes, Solomon Daywood. Kid was smart. Ponythroat says, the Logitech F710. It's a piece of crap known for its poor and unreliable wireless connection. An Xbox 360 first-party controller is about the same price, and it actually works. Tony Gilbert says, I'm fishing at the moment. Well, that's very nice. I do want to go fishing at some point. And there's actually a pretty nice place near me that's not too far I could go. Rick says, Cape Cod Radio Mystery Theater predicted this in the 90s with the show Mr. Hugo's Night to Remember. Yeah, people are also saying that The Simpsons predicted like a submersible going down. But I mean, The Simpsons has been on the air for 32 years, so I guess if you throw enough crap at the wall, it sticks eventually. Hey, Daphne Halleck says Larsen was telling us about the Titanic Submersible. Okay. Ponythroat then says, a story about people at the bottom of the sea to a story that makes you want to go to the ocean trench. Yeah. That's, yeah, this is a sad day for everybody. Ponythroat says Larsen has been eating too many baked beans and is now using the word nonce. Well, I think nonce is a much more succinct word than pedophile. I like it. It's, I don't know what the origins or the etymology of the word nonce is, but hey, the Brit bongs, they're good for some things on occasion. Avril Graves says drugs are bad. Daphne says, I would also use plastic wrap on a dead body. Tony Gilbert says, hell yeah, Larsen, new videos are cool. Tony Gilbert says, don't worry about the videos. I know a girl who hasn't made videos for months and she still has subs. Yeah. Well, I hate to say it, but yeah, women on the internet have such an easy time of it. If you're like remotely attractive and you're on the internet, you will just get like hundreds of thousands of men subbing you and simping for you. Would that I could be a 7 out of 10 girl and make millions of dollars. Ponythroat says a scripted Larsen video. Nurg, I'm about to flare. Well, I'm glad I've given you satisfaction, sir. Avril Graves says, let it out, buddy. My ex is right there with her. Yes, the most important decision in your life is who you marry. That is one of the most, if not the most important financial decisions in your life, and I've made the right decision. Tony Gilbert says, haha, got a stripper. My ex, no, she did a little modeling. She wasn't a stripper. Ponythroat says, I saw that Simpsons scene. It's a stretch, really. Only real relation that involves a submarine. Yeah, people do kind of throw the Simpsons prediction thing around a little bit too much. Tony Gilbert says she is cute too, so I'm sure that helps. Yes, Daphne Halleck is very, very cute indeed. Yeah, so, let's see. But yeah, if you have a dead body in your home, please put it in the fridge. But yeah, speaking of, as I speak, another story about another trans nonce comes out of the UK. A Tanya Howes, that's her living name, I don't know what the dead name is. Tanya Howes was convicted for child sex offenses, was allowed bail, and is now living across from a public park which has a children's playground. I don't understand why you would be given bail after you molest children. I mean, doesn't bail basically mean legal for a price? Hey, I saw that meme of Skeletor, and he told me that, and obviously Skeletor is a man whose word I should take. Yeah, just bail. Okay, we can molest children if you pay money. Hooray. Again, most of the gay dudes I've spoken to are vehemently against the idea of having children. I mean, there's a reason why breeder is an insult in their community, or at least it was at one point. And again, there's nothing wrong with being gay or trans or, whatever, as long as you are a consenting adult and you are screwing around only with other consenting adults. But when you start molesting children, I think you should be immediately executed. And I think that's a pretty clear opinion we all share. Okay, Tony Gilbert says he got not a stripper, but a striped bass, a striper. Oh, I thought you were fishing out women with low self-esteem from the river or lake you were fishing in. In 1964, experts theorize we will have 6 colonies on the moon, and you can fish moon maidens out of the craters. Again, that's a Simpsons quote. Tony Gilbert says they gave him bail and let them live across from a school. What ye fuck? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the whole Anglosphere is basically racing to the bottom of who can fuck up their societies the most. Just when I think America's doing the worst of it, Canada or the UK surprises me. So what else is in the news? We're going to leave the noncery behind. A lot of utterly idiotic racial and ethnic strife. But what else is new in America? Let's look at this. So yeah, there's something really, really stupid about this. Something stupid happened in New York City. A 25-year-old middle school teacher named Morrison Robley, he resigned after facing anti-Semitic harassment from a 12-year-old student. Said harassment, as far as I can tell, consists of a little Hitler doodle and some handwriting that looks like it was written by a 4-year-old. It's very poor handwriting, but from what I can gather, it says, "Dear Mr. Robley, I hate you and you, letter U, weird, no cap, man bun. So I switched telling a teacher, I don't appreciate you, smiley face. Half the words were spelled wrong. This was enough to cause a total retreat from employment." I'm going to try to find the picture now. I'm sorry for laughing at this, but it's really funny. I gotta find the thing. Okay, it's I'm gonna try to find the picture of the whole note. Not the memes or anything. I mean, I know this is kind of funny. I'm laughing at shitty students bullying teachers. I hate such things, but yeah, this is shit. Where is it? Don't tell me I got to start preparing images before the stream. I want to do work. Okay. Wait. Up. Here it is. All right. Yeah. Here we go. I'm sorry. I shouldn't laugh at this, but every time I see little smug cartoon Hitler, I'm just laughing my ass off. Okay, here it comes. I'm gonna put it up. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna put this thing up. Yep, here we go. So let me make it a little smaller. I'm sorry. This is funny to me. Okay. Let's see. We got some comments here while I was fiddling around with my image sources. Tony Gilbert says some people need to be hung by their toes and hit with bats. Yes. I know there's always been the problem of for a firing squad, nobody wants to be the trigger man who actually fires the bullet, which is why they load it up with a fake bullet and nobody knows who did it. But I think with pedophiles, I would be willing to actually shoot the dude just straight up in the head. Okay, Biff Slankovich says maybe it's a new and improved Russian Revolution. Yes, I heard that there's rumors of a coup going on. News will follow and we'll see what happens. Okay, Ponythroat says time for a little playground bang around. Yeah, let's not do that. Okay, Tony Gilbert says, of course it was New York. He let a student harass him. He couldn't send the kid to the principal like a man. I would throw that little bastard in detention so fast. Ponythroat says, retreating from school like the Israel army retreats from opponents armed with weapons more advanced than rocks. Okay, so let's break down these comments. Yes, I mean, I would put the kid in detention. I mean, this doesn't seem like something you have to hysterically shriek about and quit your job over. Ponythroat says, I do appreciate this kid. I'm sorry for laughing, but Is like smug cartoon Hitler not funny? I find this funny, okay? Tony Gilbert says if I was called to shoot nonces, I would just shoot somebody if I was in the firing squad. Okay. Pony Throat says the blanks in firing squads thing is not true. It's actually easy to tell the difference between a blank and a real cartridge. Oh, I didn't know that. Biff Slankovich says, could you read the note out loud again? I can't read it. Yes, it's very poorly written. I'm going to talk about that in a little while. But from what I gather, it says, Dear Mr. Robley, I personally bait you and you weird no-cap man bun. So I switched telling a teacher, I don't appreciate you, smiley face, and to the left was smug cartoon Hitler. So where do I begin unpacking this story? First of all, even when I was 12 years old, my handwriting wasn't that bad. I mean, my handwriting's not good, but it's better than this, and certainly my spelling is much better. I mean, if this is how a middle schooler writes by the end of the year, because this story was from, May or June, if this is how the teacher's writing, I think the teacher should resign anyway, because he's clearly failed at his job. That's assuming that the kid isn't mentally disabled and in special ed classes, which he probably is. I just have an intuition about that sort of thing, having taught several sped classes myself. Handwriting tends to not be good. All right, secondly, Rob Lee Morrison, you're a teacher. You're going to get shithead kids. You just got to grit your teeth and deal with them. And as you can see here, there's a picture of Mr. Robley. Yeah, he's a narrow-chested weenie who, I'm honestly surprised that the kids weren't, like, giving him wedgies and taking his lunch money. Yeah, so to recap, a mentally challenged 12-year-old drew a cartoon and bullied a grown man into retiring. I'm sorry, I find this hilarious, and I'm honestly impressed. Okay. Tony Gilbert says, you're a teacher, you have authority. What happened to men? Well, to be fair, the weenie administrators don't allow you to discipline the kids. Okay. Avril Gray says, the kid is cruel, but I guess he was being honest. He's a kid. His understanding of things is way different. I mean, I feel like when you're 12 years old, I think you should understand that, like, Hitler was bad. Well, I guess he did understand because he was obviously drawing it to insult the teacher. Pony Throat, referring to the firing squad thing, says gun shooting blanks have far less recoil. Shinseki Evans says the dumb kids drag down the entire class. They sure do. Tony Gilbert says I've been called much worse as a black man. I've never quit over that. Yeah, I mean, I had a couple of shithead kids, taunt me over my race, and like I didn't back down. I wrote them up and I moved on with my life. Like, seriously, dude, you're a teacher. You gotta harden up. Pony Throat says I could write better than that, and I don't even have fingers. Yeah, this is just a goddamn farce. So I'm gonna remove this image of smug cartoon Hitler, and we'll move on because there's more to do with the crappiness of New York schools. And yeah, speaking of race relations in the New York City schools, giving teachers exams to test their knowledge and general intelligence is apparently racist. I mean, to be fair, I'm in favor of G quotient exams and IQ tests. I feel like there should also be exams of not being a whiny little bitch like Rob Lee Morrison. I mean, that could be part of the exam process. Just bring some angry man to yell at you for half an hour, and if you don't back down, you are a qualified teacher. So why are exams racist? Well, take a wild guess why. It's because white people pass the exams at higher rates than minorities, and the minorities complained. The city has set aside more than $2 billion to pay the failed applicants in a massive class action suit. Direct quote from the article, one woman failed 10 times. When she heard about the lawsuit, she felt vindicated. because she learned the test was the problem. Yeah, the test was clearly the problem here. And of course, when they say minorities, they mean non-Asian minorities. As usual, data for how many Asians passed the test were conveniently omitted, probably because they pass at equal, if not higher rates than white people, and therefore they would completely debunk the systemic racism crap. Once again, Asians get all the bad parts of being white, like being yelled at for privilege, being victimized by feral brappies, being resented by the great unwashed, and they get none of the good parts of being white, like, being the default in society, starring in movies and what have you. Now, let's check out some comments here. Daphne Alex says, even though his understanding is different, there's a distinct understanding between good and bad at age 12. Yeah, I think by the time you're 12, you should know how to, behave yourself. Okay, Avril Graves says you should have an understanding by then. Yes. I mean, even if the kid is mentally challenged, which he probably is looking at his writing, again, I don't see why you couldn't just give the kid detention and, move on with your life. Assuming that the administrators didn't bully the teacher into not disciplining the kid, which tends to happen. Tony Gilbert sadly misses catching a bass. I'm sorry, you'll get the next one. Tony Gilbert says, what the fuck, $2 billion, and they always leave the Asians off the list. Yes, they do. I'm just saying that it's been confirmed that news outlets literally have, a narrative that they try to make the facts fit rather than the other way around. But yeah, I wonder why America's schools are garbage. Maybe because we hire idiot teachers based on stupid box checking rather than people who actually know the subject matter and know how to teach. And then sometimes the people who, have good test scores are narrow-chested weenies who get bullied by prepubescent children, like Rob Lee Morrison. Idiot teachers teaching feral students at the behest of limp-wristed gay-wad administrators. The country continues to go straight to hell, and nobody seems to notice, except me. Somebody please show me how the tests are biased racially. When I got my teacher certification, I had to pass, in addition to a subject-specific test, 2 subject-specific tests. I had to pass a general knowledge test, which is like an SAT, math, reading, writing, basic stuff. I don't recall anything that was specifically slanted towards white people. There were no mathematical questions about trying to find the cosine of foie gras or the tangent of Chateaubriand tenderloin. For the better part of the past century, they've been reworking and rewording tests over and over again to purge them of anything that might confuse the poor, innocent, noble savages and, close the test score gap. And doesn't seem to work. But don't bother looking yourself in the mirror and saying, gee, maybe I should study harder. No, you got to sue because, pursuit of happiness, derp. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Thomas Jefferson should have kept the slogan as life, liberty, and property. Pursuit of happiness becomes a bunch of mealy-mouthed horse shit, where very stupid people believe they're entitled to things they didn't work for. One little word could have made all the difference. Okay. Tony Gilbert says, Larsen, I'm on a small boat that has Wi-Fi. I didn't know dinghies had Wi-Fi now, but that's great. Dinghy tech is improving at fantastic rates. Ponythroat says he forgot to give the Fuhrer his ironic hair. I think he meant iconic hair. Could as well just be Michael Jordan. That was a joke people were making, that it was basically just like Michael Jordan. Tony Gilbert says if you're going to draw Hitler, you got to have his hair. Okay. Ponythroat says they're biased against blacks by requiring them to be able to read. Tony Gilbert says, I hate the SAT. I did great on the ASVAB, though. If you want to be technical, I didn't take the SAT either. I took the ACT. Genghis Tom says the drawing looked like G.G. Allen's brother Merle. LOL. Ah, the Jeej. Avril Graves says, here, good words. Avril, sorry. Tony Gilbert says, the SpongeBob pick is hilarious. Yes, I mean, even SpongeBob and Patrick want to put nonces in wood chippers. But yes, you know what else is racist in addition to exams? BMI. Body mass index, a measure of obesity long hated by fat women, is now under attack by the American Medical Association, AMA, because it is racist. Why is it racist? I don't know. Oh, right, I forgot. If you ask the shit libs, they'd be all like, black women tend to be fat, and therefore it's racist for you not to acknowledge that. I'm an anti-racist. No, like that's literally the explanation they give when you ask them why they shoehorn giant fat black women into all their media. Now, on the other hand, I find it a bit racist to say that black women cannot be thin and attractive and therefore they shouldn't try. But there I go again, thinking that black people are capable and rational human beings with agency. Apparently, that makes me a racist. No, instead of lifting the lumpen proles up to match society's standards, let's just drag everybody else down to the lowest common denominator. Yay. This is how we create the superior future. And, no, I cannot say the phrase superior future without doing a movie Bob impression. I cannot. Look, BMI's got problems, certainly. Namely that it doesn't differentiate between fat weight and muscle weight. So BMI would indeed mark an NFL offensive lineman or a World's Strongest Man competitor as being morbidly obese. That is true. But I'm pretty sure the average slob on the street is neither an offensive lineman or a World's Strongest Man. So for the majority of people, BMI is good enough. Alternatively, we could just measure body fat percentage, which would require, honestly, probably less work. I mean, yeah, why don't we measure body fat percentage? I don't know. Let's check out some comments here. Tony Gilbert says it's not a dinghy, lol. Well, I'm just using the term dinghy as a generic term for small boat. I don't know, maybe you're on a big boat, maybe you got a yacht. I don't know. I don't know about your boat status. I don't have any boats at all. I say as if I don't have a book on my computer talking about building your own rowboats and canoes and kayaks, which I will do someday, but I figure it'll go straight to hell. It's going to end up like that Titanic Ocean Gate Submersible, like the Larsen kayak, the SS Larsen. Tony Gilbert says, don't insult my bass tracker like that, Larsen. Oh, I'm sorry, I don't know your loadout. Tony Gilbert says BMI. I remember that from school. Yeah, BMI's not. Yeah, I mean, BMI's got problems, but it's more or less accurate for most people. I mean, I guess we could measure body fat percentage, like I said, but I feel like people will be more offended if you tell them, you're 50% body fat or whatever. Ponythroat says it's racist because Shaniqua cannot put down the Popeyes. Yeah, a little bit. Daphne Halleck says, BMI, my old nemesis. To be fair, BMI makes everybody feel bad about themselves, no matter how thin you are. Yeah, it's not a great scale, but it's good enough for most people. Tony Gilbert says, I'm 6'4", 260, but I'm obese. I don't get it. Like I said, BMI does not differentiate between fat and muscle. So, somebody who's built like a World's Strongest Man or a, NFL player gets marked as obese, and I agree, that's wrong. Ponythroat says, speaking of movie Bob, he's probably another BMI denier. Well, movie Bob does claim that he can bench press like 3 plates, 315 pounds, which I doubt very much. Movie Bob is, of course, the man who marinades chicken in Mountain Dew in like garbage bags. Tony Gilbert says, Larsen needs to build a codicil. It's easy to build one. I don't even know what that is. I looked it up and nothing came up. It's conical boat. I'm seeing little, like, bucket boats and stuff. Yeah, the book I have is, like, you could build, like, rowboats and kayaks and catamarans and rafts. Wait, I think maybe you were trying to say coracle boat. Coracle boat, spelled Cwrwgl, because the Welsh are morons. It's a small one-person boat made out of woven wood and a waterproof covering. They were used in Iron Age UK going back before the Romans, and they're still used for fishing today. Yes, I will have to look at that. Yeah, that's quite a boat. Okay, Ponythroat says BMI, bitches maintaining insulin. Hi-yo. Ponythroat says movie Bob squats 600 pounds, never gets out of his gamer chair. Yeah. Uh, I don't know if he's even getting out of his chair, considering movie Bob, of course, has adult onset diabetes. Probably from that, great wall of soda cans he has blocking his basement apartment wall. Tony Gilbert says, I spelled it wrong. Sorry, I've been smoking. It's okay. It took me a second to figure it out. Yeah, this boat doesn't really look particularly seaworthy, but yeah, it's probably a fishing boat. It's like a little dinghy for fishing, on the river or the lake. Yeah, once I get like an actual garage, you're gonna see Larsen build a kayak. Okay, let's see what other comments we have here. Tony Gilbert also says Mountain Dew marinated chicken. What the fuck? Yeah, Movie Bob is a very, very strange man. He marinates chicken in like Mountain Dew, like literally, like Kiwi Farms, which is unfortunately like under DDoS attack as of late. They had a great thread about Movie Bob. There's actually two threads. One went to 5,000 pages of just his failures and foibles, and they had to start another one. But yeah, there's like his on Twitter. He was like posting pictures of his home cooked meal, which is literally a chicken marinated in Mountain Dew, put in a garbage bag, and left to like sit in the refrigerator for 3 days. And then he also had some other like barbecue ribs or something, which is literally marinated in like Taco Bell sauce packets that he like squeezed out into a bucket. It was disgusting. Tony Gilbert says that's like Wings of Redemption. The internet does abound with disgusting fat men making horrifying culinary atrocities. Tony Gilbert says the coracle is a low creek or boat. Seaworthy me, but ain't taking a big wave. LOL. Well, I mean, I'm not Thor Heyerdahl. I can't make like wicker rafts and go thousands of miles on the ocean. Ponythroat says just get a door to float on. You can fish through the mail slot. Yes. Tony Gilbert says the only thing that goes on my chicken is Old Bay. I mean, there's many good marinades you can make. You don't have to soak it in soda. Although I actually take that back. I have actually eaten like barbecue that used like Dr. Pepper as one of the ingredients. It was actually really good. So a good chef can, use soft drinks sparingly to make good marinades. Movie Bob is not a good chef. Ponythroat says, did you see that tweet about what Movie Bob thought was a reasonable amount of McDonald's? Yes, I did. I talked about this a while back. It was like 4 Big Macs, like 4 chicken nuggies, sodas, and fries. And he was like, this is a reasonable amount of McDonald's for one person. It is not a reasonable amount of McDonald's. I can't talk. It is not a reasonable amount of McDonald's, Movie Bobbert. So yeah, let's leave Movie Bob and boats aside. Let's go down to old Mexico for a bit. It may surprise you, but things aren't great there. That's a phrase you could literally say about any moment in Mexican history. This is also a wagey L because Mexico gets an Amazon distribution center. Yay. It's literally, the pictures I've seen are literally the most dystopian images I can imagine. It's a giant brick and mortar blockhead warehouse surrounded by slums and peasant hovels. And, yeah, I know. Some people are defending this, saying it brings jobs. And yes, an American minimum wage of $16 an hour would be pretty damn good by Mexican standards. But knowing Amazon, I highly doubt they'll pay the American minimum wage. Well, best of luck to our southern neighbors. Now that Amazon's involved, they're going to need it. Speaking of Mexico, because Mexico didn't get in the shorts enough this week. Speaking of Mexico, Disney was under heavy fire this past week for some crappy cartoon show they're debuting called Primos, which means cousins. It's going to be on TV, and it's made by somebody who refers to themselves as Latinx, so obviously this is going to be hot garbage. And watching the preview clip I saw of it, yeah, shit sucks. First of all, it's drawn in that hacky, Cal Arts. Everybody is a bunch of potato and lima bean shapes with primary colors and thick outlines. That style of cartoon that literally every goddamn show on TV is using nowadays, and I hate it, and everybody else hates it. And to think that Cal Arts was literally funded by Walt Disney himself to train animators. Have these people read The Illusion of Life or even heard of it? I mean, it is a mandatory textbook in the fine arts department at Rutgers and also San Francisco State. Like, please read this book, people. The 9 Old Men and Walt Disney himself wrote it for you. The principles of animation, sirs. But more importantly, not only does the show look like hot garbage, it's racist in a way that only could have been done by a left-wing liberal progressive. A progressive in the sense of, I'm a fifth-generation Mexican-American, I'm going to connect with my culture, so I'm going to do it in the most shallow, stereotypical, horseshit way imaginable. So what that means is, yes, let's depict all the people as being short, swarthy potato chuds. All the girls have goddamn unibrows because her der Frida Kahlo is the only Mexican woman I know, herpa derp. Let's put the piss-yellow Breaking Bad sky filter on the cartoon. Let's depict 30 people living in a shitty house, and for a final kick to the huevos, let's get the Spanish grammar and conjugation wrong too. Yep, that's what Mexican culture's all about, right? Ugly women and 30 feral mongoloids living in a shitty house. Bravo, Disney. You made a progressive, anti-racist show that's somehow more racist than some 1930s silly symphony cartoon. I mean, this is like imagine if some Boston Irish guy was like, I'm going to connect to my heritage, and he proceeds to get pissed drunk and punch his wife in the face. Let's check out some comments. Tony Gilbert says, things good in Mexico? Never. I've been to Mexico. It wasn't great. I mean, there was they call it like the Mexican miracle. It's from like 1940 to about 1960 where things were actually pretty good in Mexico. You had like the good neighbor policy in America kind of, backing off the Monroe Doctrine shit. We did do a lot of investments, not just the Bush family trying to integrate us into Mexico, which they've been doing for generations. And then there was massive famines in Mexico, which the United States had to, bail them out of, but that's neither here nor there. There's a YouTuber I watch called Master of Rawfulness, where it's like he does like kind of history jokes and history memes, where it's like the history of Mexico. It's like there was massive corruption and unemployment, and then there was a revolution, and then there was more corruption and unemployment, and then there was another revolution, and then there was corruption and unemployment, and just on and on and on. Yeah, it's a lot of that. Tony Gilbert says, I've been to Mexico. It wasn't great. I've never been, and I have nothing against Mexican people, but I am aware that it's not the most pleasant history in the world. Pointy Throat says, Mexican guy was fired from his job at the ice cream parlor because the work was too physically challenging. I mean, I'm sure in some ways it could be. Tony Gilbert says Disney's been on my shit list, but Steamboat Mickey is in public domain January 1st next year. Oh, I'm sure they'll finagle the copyright laws, get an extension on that, like they've done multiple times in the past. Tony Gilbert says, lol, Disney being offensive. Is the sky blue? LOL. In all honesty, I feel like they're somehow more offensive like now than they were like in like the 30s and 40s. Ponythroat says, normalize referring to Mexicans as feral mongoloids. Well, no, like obviously not all Mexicans are like that. But like the way you got to look up this show. There's a I gotta find them, which I doubt I'll be able to find it. But it was like a some guy on Twitter was like Mexican cartoons drawn in Mexico, like nice normal looking people. And it's like Latinx American Mexican depictions. It's all like these like stumpy potato chuds. And like, come on, that's not fair. It's like this is more authentic to my heritage. Herp a derp. Like, why must you draw every woman with a unibrow? Not every Mexican girl looks like Frida Kahlo. Genghis Tom says, Irish American here. I can confirm we know nothing of the old country. We just reinforce the stereotypes. Yeah, I mean, Garth Ennis, the comic book artist, he actually kind of goes off in some of his comics about how Irish Americans just embody all the, like, negative stereotypes of Ireland. Like, he hates American St. Patrick's Day, like, vociferously. And so do I, honestly. And, you know, here's another example. Like, I got some Polish in me. So what if I was like, I'm going to connect to my heritage, then I proceeded to eat rotten cabbage and just dump headfirst into a pile of horse manure. Like, oh, I'm going to connect to my heritage. Yeah, assorted ethnics, please connect to your actual heritage. The writers and artists and great men of your heritage. Don't just succumb to the most base form of stereotypes and think you're being authentic. Like this will never cease to amuse me. Like, hey guys, I'm going to do some Latinx representation. And then just draws a 4-foot tall gobelino with a unibrow. Yay, I'm not racist. Okay, Tony Gilbert says, I'm half German. I see German stereotypes all the time. Yes, like, I also got some German in me, so it's like, I'm going to embrace my heritage. I'm going to become really fixated on scat. Rick says, Oye Primos demonstrates why so many Latinos prefer anime. Yes. I mean, it's also... I mean, the Japanese are cleaning our clocks in terms of media output. Like, one manga, Demon Slayer, literally outsold all American comic books. Which, you know, maybe it's because Demon Slayer tells good stories and it's not cramming, like, woke horseshit down our throats. Okay, Ponythroat says, does anybody else notice Ireland stereotypes a lot like Russian stereotypes? Drunken, starving, potatoes. Yeah, there's some similarities. It's just those northern European climes. I think it creates like just a gray morass of misery and pain. Ponythroat then says, El Goblino de Educación Especial. Yeah. Genghis Tom says Americans have trouble with their various heritages in general. I'm also Italian. I learned more about that culture from the Sopranos than from my own family. LOL. Yeah, I mean, Teddy Roosevelt said, like, you know, hyphenated Americanism has no place here. And I'm inclined to agree, honestly. A little bit. Or at the very least, like, if you're going to embrace your actual heritage, don't just succumb to the base stereotypes. Like, no, Italian people, you're not all in the mafia. Tony Gilbert says, Rick, good point. Y'all ain't represented like y'all should be. The guy from Bleach is cool as hell, though. Well, again, like, there's plenty of good, I mean, just from that meme I was telling you about, the Mexican cartoons made in Mexico, I've never seen them, but, you know, they are well designed and they look halfway decent. I might be so inclined to watch them, Probably not, but I might. But yeah, can we please stop drawing like 4 foot tall gobelinas? Like for the last time, it's not racist to draw attractive women. And like this is what they do. Like the leftists will be like, well, the spicy Latina mamacita stereotype is offensive. Duh. Oh, like the stumpy gobelina isn't offensive. I think the latter is much more offensive than the former. I mean, quite a few women, from my experience, do lean into and embrace the former. Nobody wants to embrace the latter. The former is a neutral stereotype, you can call it. It could be positive or negative, depending on how you do it. But the latter is always bad. It's like, to go to my Asian side, it's like the yellow peril stereotype. The sinister, bloodthirsty Chinaman. It could be good or it could be bad, depending on how you portray it. The hunched over, servile weenie stereotype is never good. It is impossible to be good. Mainly what I'm asking for is people need to learn how to draw again, because I'm sick of seeing these ugly-ass cartoons on TV. Rick says, the guy from Bleach is a square-jawed man named Chad. Ponythroat says, weebs say Bleach is good, but when I drink, I just feel sick. Yeah, don't drink bleach. Like, I mean, I'm not even Hispanic. I just got to say this. Like, not every Mexican person is some, 4 foot tall potato, and it's offensive that you would depict them all that way. Like, please stop. And yeah, the maker of Oye Primos is like, again, had to go on Twitter and like defend herself, and she just made it a lot worse, as you would expect from somebody who uses the term Latinx. But yeah, speaking of woman-specific foibles, Twitter silliness was very sad today. An Army veteran was driven to suicide after his girlfriend and the mother of his child sent him videos of her having sex with another man. So yeah, first we had to deal with Latinx lady foibles, now we're dealing with white woman foibles. Mandy Rush, or Roosh, of the great rural wasteland that makes up 90% of Pennsylvania, sent the videos to her boyfriend, Kevin Metzger, along with emotionally abusive text messages, mocking the death of his dog and taunting him that her new man would be raising their daughter. And, yeah, the guy killed himself. Army Wise Try Not to Be Abusive Whores Challenge. Impossible difficulty. Yep, these are the women you're fighting for, gentlemen. Not to reference Disney again. Yeah, no wonder the kids are depressed. Polls show that the children are depressed. Half of teenagers say they don't enjoy life. To be fair, they're living in 2023, and life kind of sucks now. Okay, we got some comments here. Ponythroat says the term gobelino is funny. In Spanish, the actual term for a goblin is duende. I believe duende actually refers to the the wide body of folklore that lumps in hobs, kobolds, house sprites, pucks, and things like that. But yeah, I believe nowadays it's like a generic term for any sort of little fantasy critter. Tony Gilbert laments animation being crap. Yeah, it is. You know what I really hate is when they just draw like one figure and then they use Toon Boom and Flash, just kind of wiggle it around. Because, fuck in-betweening. Tony Gilbert says, why would she do that? Well, it's because, again, Army wives, from what I've seen, tend to be pretty miserable human beings. The dependopotamus stereotype exists for a reason. It's the hardest job in the military. It's the hardest job in the military. No, it isn't. It's not hard to sit on base and get fat and cheat on your husband. Think of instead a girl worth fighting for. Yeah, it would be nice to have a girl worth fighting for. Most of them aren't. My wife is, but I'm not stupid enough to join the military. Okay. Ponythroat says, people who are in relationships before joining the military are unfathomable fools. I can't believe some people are that naive. Avril Graves says, preach on it. Why do you think the kids are messed up today more than other generations? Well, I think the dismantling of institutions probably did a lot. We don't have any mental health care at all, which is coincidentally why the mass shootings happen. And, it's also like we've deliberately dumbed down the schools and, we don't discipline the kids and just shit sucks. I mean, I've said it before and I've said it again. Like, America in the past was, a great nation with one major problem, which was the racism, and I acknowledge that. So, we've become like, we've done a complete 180 on the racism, but it's like we've just destroyed like all institutions and like, functionality in society instead. So I can't say it's really that much better than it was in the past. And anyway, now let's go to the pop culture news. Because, speaking of things sucking, in video game news, it's official. Video game developers are literally on record saying having fun is not a major goal that we strive for. Neil Druckmann of The Last of Us 2 goes on record. We don't use the word fun, we say engaging. The difference between the two is an important distinction for us. Yeah, video games aren't supposed to be fun. I was not aware of that, but I guess so. I mean, who would possibly want a game to be fun? Again, I like when words mean things. Like, I know what fun means. What the hell does engaging mean? I mean, I think what Druckmann is intending is a good idea. That games don't have to always be lighthearted and positive. They can wring emotions and pathos out of you like a movie. And that is something to strive for, I agree. But what that usually seems to boil down to is, let's turn games into crappy movies where you walk in straight lines for 50 hours because the journos will give it good reviews. Video game developers nowadays all want to be movie directors, but they're not good at it. And yes, the game journalists do want walking simulators. Yeah, there's the new Legend of Zelda that just came out, Tears of the Kingdom. I literally saw an article where some lady journalist was like, this game would be better without the combat. The combat derails your journey. The combat derails your journey. Hey guys, we have this game about a brave knight who is famous for using a sword and shield to fight for truth and justice. You know what this game needs less of? Combat. I mean, I understand that video game journalism is the short bus of journalism, but can we at least hire people who know how to play games to some minimum competency? Or at the very least, like, not have total contempt for the medium we're writing about? Yeah, remove the combat and Zelda. Why don't we do that for every game, okay? Like, let's say Grand Theft Auto. Like, we should get rid of all the carjacking and the shooting and stuff. Why don't we make Grand Theft Auto about putting on a suit and tie and going to your bullshit cubicle wage cuck job for 30 years? What if, Gran Turismo, the car racing game, why don't we not have car racing? Why don't we just take the bus instead? Tetris is too hard. These blocks are like weird shapes. All the blocks in Tetris should just be 2x2 squares. Then it would be much more efficient. We could build towers more efficiently. Now, hey guys, I have this great idea. I'm going to use my tools. I'm going to make a marble maze toy. But there's not going to be any walls to the maze because they derail the journey of the marble. And having too many dimensions to the maze also impedes the journey. So it's just going to be a tube that's exactly the same dimensions as the marble. You can roll it in exactly 2 dimensions. 10 out of 10 stars from Game Informer and IGN. Okay, let's see. Got some comments here. Pointy says, I see people for scams and how these adults don't have the level of suspicious and cynicism now I was blessed with at 11. Yeah, I think IQ tests should be used more for, general, like, societal processes. Shinseki Evans says, America is more racist than ever now. Just the roles have been reversed. I mean, that's arguable. I I would point out that between 1865 and 1965, about 3,500 black people were lynched, and a lot more than that are murdered every year. Okay, Tony Gilbert says, you play games to have fun. What a nincompoop. Avril Graves says, what the fuck, no combat? The combat derails your journey. The combat, the thing you play Zelda to do. I mean, apparently not. I mean, this lady journalist, it was Stacy something or other. She literally wants a game where you just walk in a straight line for 50 hours, I guess. And, considering what we talked about a couple weeks ago, I guess having combat and things in Zelda derails your fan fiction about Link being a transsexual. Might I suggest two things to the video game developers? One is that you are directing a video game. You're not directing a movie, so stop trying to make your game into mediocre movies. Realize that there are narrative goals that are unique to movies that you cannot accomplish. And there are also things you can do in a game that you can only accomplish in an interactive medium. And secondly, I would also like to suggest that you can make a game that wrings emotion and pathos out of the player while still being an enjoyable, fun experience. Look at Shadow of the Colossus, which in my opinion is still the closest video games have ever come to being art. The game uses the dichotomy between fun and exciting combat and giving sympathy and pathos to your enemies masterfully to tell a great story. Oh, and you know what else it has? It also has long periods of walking in straight lines. See, that'll placate the game journalist. Everybody wins. And my students wonder why I don't like new video games. Fun. We don't make games to have fun. We make two kinds of games. We either make 50-hour-long lesbian golf walking simulators, or we just make idiotic Skinner boxes that turn people into drooling addicts who piss in jugs. Yeah, no, this is what happens when you hand media over to the beigest weenies who have no interest outside of being beigest weenies. Whether it be movies, books, television, video games, whatever kind of narrative storytelling, they control everything, and they're turning it all into the most banal garbage imaginable. Can I please suggest that you actually do something interesting in your life before you decide to write fiction? Ernest Hemingway and F. Scott Fitzgerald and Richard Burton and Robert Howard and Ernst Junger lived interesting lives, and that's why they write interesting stories. You, on the other hand, went straight from a suburb in a $500,000 a year house to an Ivy League school to some make-work bullshit writing job. Your life is banal garbage, and you can't write interesting stories. That does it for my prepared remarks. Let's see what you people have to say. Okay. Ponythroat says, The Last of Us would have been better as a scrolling beat-em-up. I've never played either Last of Us. I mean, from what I gather, they are allegedly like zombie apocalypse games that are basically just lesbian golf simulators where you walk in straight lines for a long time. Avril Graves says, big rigs, you just drive for days. I mean, I legit have more fun with big rigs than I would with like any of these, art games, like the, triple A, like bullshit games. Genghis Tom says, why don't you have a game where you play as a no-name female developer and you bang your way to good reviews? Yeah, that would be good. I mean, there was that game like the Cuckold Simulator, which is like you go to your wagey job and your wife sleeps around on you. I mean, I guess that's the kind of game that game journalists like. Okay, there's a Russian coup going on. Confirmed. Okay, Prigozhin. Let's see. All right, so I mean, I don't think we should get involved, and that's. I dream of a day where the United States doesn't give a crap about what goes on in Russia. People are claiming that the CIA is funding a coup with Prigozhin because, of course, when anything happens anywhere in the world, like, midwits start screaming that the CIA did something. Okay. Let's see. Biff Slankovich says, this is why Euro cartel commissioners are way tougher than, of course, all the tax loopholes here for the rich. I have my buckets out and so waiting for the trickle-down effect to happen. Yes, Biff, we're all waiting for the trickle-down to trickle down. I mean, I just don't want the nukes to start flying in Russia. That's all I want. I mean, I do not want them. Apparently, Yevgeny Prigozhin is not a particularly nice person. I should also point out that, what was I going to say? Let's not pretend that the West is not totally innocent, that we kind of, buffed up Ukraine to try to fight Russia going back to like 2013. Because various people in the government are inherently Russophobic for various reasons. We got some Cold Warriors who are still clinging to it. You have some people who just hate Russians as an ethnic group for various reasons. Again, I don't think we should get involved, and that's that. Shinseki Evans says, what is my advice for Todd in the Shadows? Well, first of all, I think he's a hack. Sorry. But yes, he's an angry leftist half-Asian dude that still simps for his ex, the nostalgia chick who jumped in years ago. I was not aware that Todd was half-Asian. Like, what's the other half? Like, also Asian? I mean, he's... Todd in the Shadows, like, Mr. Medicare said it best. He looks like if Harold and Kumar had, like, a gay love child. That's basically what Todd looks like. But yeah, my advice to Todd in the Shadows is, go screw some other women and get over your ex. Is there anything more sad than a man who, like, still longs for his, like, lost woman for years? Bisankovich says, Prigozhin, or whatever, probably got his name wrong. Prigozhin is the head of the Wagner group of prisoners and conscripts. An army of thieves and whores. Wonderful. Again, like, I don't think we should get involved, and that's that. And also, I think NATO should be disbanded, but that's neither here nor there. Well, actually, it is very much involved. Ponythroat says, I've seen Todd's face. He should have stayed in the shadows. Yes, I have the same opinion. All right, we can keep talking if you want. I'm done with my prepared remarks. Okay, let's see. Rick says Hollywood's probably making a movie about the Wagner group. Yeah. I mean, some people just have this gut reaction to, like, they want to stamp Russia into the ground. Not that I support Putin at all, but again, NATO. This all goes back to 1991, I feel, in which Russia genuinely extended the hand of friendship to America and we smacked it down. And I feel like that kind of started everything, which led to the dismal Yeltsin years. And then that led to Putin coming into power. Would that we, didn't fuck up the end game after the Cold War. Ponythroat says it's pronounced Wagner. So it is. Okay, I think we're done here. So for Larsen Halleck, I'm Larsen Halleck. All of you have a good day. Okay, Rick says, how's the new job? It's very good. I like it a lot. It's all the fun parts of teaching without the grading. I mean, I do occasionally have to, set up new, programs and things. And also, like, I had to move around a bunch of crap in the warehouse. But hey, it's okay. Bill Sankovich says Russia asked for our help in World War II and we went south to North Africa instead. Bad move. I mean, I don't care what Stalin says. We took the pressure off him by like kind of moving up through North Africa to Italy and then Western Europe. And we also allowed them to take Berlin. But that's neither here nor there. All right, so for Larsen Halleck, I'm Larsen Halleck. All of you have a good day.